Everyone, it's Dr. Steve Orma, and today I'm going to answer a question from a viewer. This is Sleep Secrets episode number 2, and I've been receiving a lot of questions from you viewers here that were left in the comments below, and so I'm going to answer a question that I got this past week, and this question is from Amy Berger, and this is her question: What suggestions do you have? Actually, this is from my blog on my website. What suggestions do you have for someone who falls asleep within 10 minutes but wakes up after 5 hours and often cannot get back to sleep? I have room darkening curtains. Okay, so that's Amy's question. So I want to answer that today. So what Amy is describing here is what is called early morning awakening. Well, it could be called two things. There's what's called maintenance insomnia. Maintenance insomnia, or maintaining sleep, is someone who has no problem falling asleep, but then they wake up sometime in the night or the early morning and they have difficulty falling back to sleep. Now, there's also this thing called early morning awakening. So what's the difference? Well, maintenance insomnia is someone who wakes up in the middle of the night, has difficulty falling back to sleep, but ultimately falls back to sleep. Maybe it takes them an hour, 2 hours, but they do fall back to sleep. Early morning awakening is someone who wakes up kind of more in the early morning, but never falls back to sleep. So let's say your wake up time is 7 a.m. and early morning awakening would be probably anything that would be 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes or more before your wake up time. So if your wake up time is 7 a.m. and you're waking up at 6:15 or anything earlier, 5 a.m., anything like that, that would be considered an early morning awakening. Because it's you're waking up significantly before your regular wake up time. Now, if you wake up, let's say your wake up time is 7 a.m. and you wake up at 6:45 or something, or even 6:30, but you woke up naturally and you had a full night's of sleep, then that's not early morning awakening. That's actually a really healthy sleep pattern, and it's the ideal to be able to wake up close to your alarm and not be woken up by your alarm. So it sounds like what Amy's having here, if she's only getting 5 hours after she initially falls asleep, she's having early morning awakening if she's never falling back to sleep. And if this is happening, 2-3 nights a week consistently over at least a few weeks, this will be a form of insomnia called early morning awakening. Now, her question is, what do you do about this? And what it sounds like what she's tried is just sort of darkening the room, because maybe in the early morning, the sun comes up and the light starts coming through and the light wakes her up. Okay. That is what's called sleep hygiene, which I've talked about a lot. And sleep hygiene is, changing things around your external environment, like putting on blackout shades, or wearing an eye mask, or keeping your room quiet. These sort of external environmental things to make your bed and your bedroom more comfortable and more supportive and conducive to sleep. And hey, those things are good, but once you have insomnia, they're not going to do anything, because it's actually not those things that are. Those things can also be disturbing your sleep. If bright light is shining into your eyes at 5 o'clock in the morning, it's going to be hard to sleep, but that's not insomnia. That's just, something getting in the way of that would get in the way of pretty much anyone's normal sleep. Or if someone was jackhammering outside your window at 5 in the morning, no one's going to be able to sleep with that. That's not insomnia. Okay, and this is why sleep hygiene doesn't work, because you're not actually addressing the internal problem that in this case Amy's having, that's causing the insomnia or the early morning awakening, and that is actually what has to be shifted, is the internal sleep system. So, well, how do we do that? Well, that's the whole process of overcoming insomnia, and unfortunately, there is no easy, simple, quick fix for insomnia or earlier morning awakening, which is the way that Amy is experiencing her insomnia. Is early morning awakening is the type that she's having now. It depends on how long this has been going on. Sometimes if someone has very short-term acute insomnia that's only been going on for a week or even 2 weeks, and this is happening, then generally if you don't change a lot with your sleep, like if you don't react and start freaking out and start doing all these things to try to solve the problem, usually it'll just pass on its own. But if it's been going on, a couple of weeks or longer, then and it's been happening at least a few times a week, that it's probably become a more consistent pattern, and just leaving it alone is likely not to get rid of it. So what do? Well, you need to do a few different things. So, this is the thing with insomnia is that, I'll point out, and this is not Amy, this is, a lot of the questions I get is like, I'm having trouble falling asleep. It's taking me 2 hours to fall asleep every night. What do I do? How do I solve that problem? And there really is no quick fix answer to this. This is something I've talked about, that it's kind of like an iceberg. On the tip of the iceberg, you're experiencing the symptom of insomnia, which is difficulty. You're waking up in the night and then not unable to go back to sleep. But underlying that is a whole pattern of behavior and thought processes that created this problem to begin with, that will not be fixed most of the time by just, one kind of quick tip or quick skill or technique to solve the problem, because it's a pattern that's been set in, and you have to do a few different things over a certain period of time, and it has to be personalized to you for it to work. Okay, but I'll give you the principles here, right? Because like people want an answer to this, but this is the challenge with this particular with insomnia, and with the solution to it, which is where there's a lot more to it. Now, I did do because I keep getting questions like this. I did do a series recently of videos here that you could find on my channel, and I turned it into a playlist, which is entitled How to Overcome Insomnia Step by Step. And I lay out week by week in I think 5 or 6 different videos the whole treatment for solving this problem that Amy's talking about here with early morning awakening, or it also applies to any kind of insomnia, trouble falling asleep, the maintenance insomnia, which is staying asleep or waking up early in the morning, or some people have a combination of these. What is the gold standard solution to this? And I laid this out, and you could see just in those videos, I think it's 5 or 6 videos, I go into pretty good detail of the whole process. And this is, Amy, I would watch that series if you haven't. That is the ultimate solution to this problem here. There is no quick fix. But what is going on here, just so you understand, is just a pattern that's been set in the body that's associating being awake in the bed at that particular time of the morning on a certain number of days per week. And it just gets associated. So it probably initially was triggered by something. It might have just been a normal, you woke up in the middle of the night and maybe something like a stressful thing is weighing on your mind, or maybe it was triggered by travel. These things could be initially triggered by so many things that interfere with the sleep. But then what happens is you might start worrying about it or getting frustrated that you're not getting back to sleep. And then in response to that, then you might engage in what are called poor sleep behaviors that then make the problem set in or become a pattern where you're sort of training your body to not sleep at that time. And you're not doing it deliberately, but people do this unknowingly. And then before they know it, they've taught their body to not sleep, at certain times of the night, on a consistent basis. And so what we basically need to do to solve it is to undo what you did to start it, or what's maintaining it, the behaviors and the thought patterns, and then replace it back with the, healthy sleep behaviors. But to do that is a little more tricky than how it was caused, because we have to personalize that to you and your body and the pattern that you currently have with your sleep over the past week. So so basically what feeds this is that pattern that's been set where there's an association where the brain starts to think that you want to start waking up at, let's say, 5 a.m. or after you've slept for 5 hours. And then the wakefulness system, once you wake up, becomes very active, where you become more alert, or like a wired feeling. And then your mind might start going too. You're lying there and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm not sleeping. What if I don't get back to sleep? I'm going to feel like, and that's when all what are called negative sleep thoughts get triggered. And the way to undo that is to break that pattern. And the way that we break that pattern is to really two things. One is to address the negative sleep thoughts and shift them. But really, at this point, it becomes more of a behavioral problem, meaning your actual behaviors around your sleep. And the number one thing that feeds it here is spending too much time in the bed awake. What people normally will do when this happens is they will just stay in the bed and continue to struggle to go back to sleep. So let's say your wake up time is 7 a.m. and you go to bed at 11 and you sleep 5 hours, which means you wake up at like 4 a.m. And now between 4 a.m. and 7 a.m., you're just lying in the bed, trying to go back to sleep, tossing and turning. Your mind's going. Maybe you go on your phone, things like that. And then, then finally 7 a.m. comes, you dread getting up because you haven't slept very well that night. And then that pattern, continues on, a few or more nights a week. And it's because your brain starts to believe that you want to wake up at that time and be alert because now that has happened several times, and then it just that pattern just gets reinforced. And the way that people maintain it and feed it is by staying in the bed. Okay, so the key with insomnia is to weaken that association by not spending too much time in bed awake, and by maximizing the time you're in bed asleep. Now, one way to respond to that is by getting out of the bed. But this is a tricky thing. I've talked about this. This is called the 30-30 rule, where you're getting out of the bed when you're not sleeping after a certain period of time and you're going to another room. And that is something that you could do here. But normally that on its own is not going to solve the problem, because usually there's other problems that need to be addressed in addition to that. And this is why, the challenge with answering some of these questions is the answer is going to be way more involved. Like, I'd have to go through several components of the treatment. This is why I made that series that I would watch the one that I referenced earlier on how to overcome insomnia. So you see that there's a multifaceted process here, and it's not a quick fix. If you're looking for a quick fix, which you're probably not, you just want to solve the problem, but it doesn't, as far as I know, at this point exist. And so you really have to go through the whole process of the different components, and not just the getting out of the bed when you're not sleeping thing, because that generally won't work on its own, and then you'll get more frustrated and more hopeless and all these kinds of things. And then that will feed the pattern even more. What you want to do is learn what are the components to this process, and then try to either implement those on your own, which is hard to do, but or get some support around how to go about it from someone who can help you navigate the process. Okay, so how to solve this problem is to really, if this has been longer than a couple of weeks, then you want to look into, like the process that I've described for solving a problem like this. And it's going to be the same thing for early morning awakening as it is for difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep as well. And that's really the way to go. What you generally don't want to do is go to medication or supplements, things like that, because it's going to be that's one of those quick fix solutions that isn't really a solution, and because it doesn't address the underlying core issues, which are the thought patterns, and in particular the behaviors that have been developed that created the problem. And those are the things that need to be changed, not just going to treating the symptom by taking something that's going to sedate you. So if you've gone down that route, if you're dealing with this early morning awakening or any kind of insomnia, you want to look into the process that I've described in my previous videos, and that is how you want to address this issue. Okay, so I hope that at least give you some leads on kind of where you can find sort of the actual solution to this problem, Amy, and anyone else dealing with this issue. And, if you guys found this video helpful or informative, just press the like button, and you can also subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed, I do 2 of these videos every week. I post them on Tuesday and Thursday. Thursdays is my series that's called Sleep Secrets, where I answer questions like I did today, answering Amy's. And so if you have any questions that you have, any follow-up questions about this video here, or questions of your own about the insomnia that you're dealing with, then you can post those in the comment section below. I read all the comments, and any questions that seem like they'd be really good for a video like this, I will do a video just for you in a future episode. So, all right, hope you have a good rest of your week, and I will see you next time.